Number 6. The LifeSport Scandal 2014. It was supposed to save lives. A program to help at-risk youth, keep them off the streets and out of gangs. Instead, it became a multi-million-dollar money pit filled with fraud, ghost employees, and links to criminal gangs. This is the story of the LifeSport Scandal, one of Trinidad and Tobago's most disgraceful government failures. In 2012, the government launched LifeSport, short for Life Skills Sport. It was run by the Ministry of Sport, led at the time by Minister Anil Roberts, under the People's Partnership Administration. The idea? Pay young men from high-crime areas $1,500 a month to take part in sports training, mentorship, and life skills sessions. The goal was to steer them away from crime and give them a future. Sounds noble, right? Well, it didn't take long for things to go completely off the rails. By 2014, LifeSport had ballooned into a $400 million program. And then the whispers started. People were asking, why are there no receipts? Why are some training centers just abandoned buildings? And who are these coaches that nobody's ever seen? An audit was launched by the Ministry of Finance, and what they found was shocking. Ghost participants being paid. Overpayments for food, rent, and equipment. Contracts being awarded to companies with criminal ties. Millions unaccounted for. And a growing link between LifeSport and gang activity. In some areas, the program was even being used to recruit young men into organized crime, with taxpayer money funding it all. The audit report dropped like a bombshell in mid-2014. The Prime Minister at the time, Kamla Persad-Bisesa, immediately shut down the LifeSport program and referred the matter to the police, the Integrity Commission, and the DPP. Meanwhile, Anil Roberts, the Minister of Sport, faced massive public backlash. He claimed innocence, said he knew nothing about the wrongdoing, but eventually, he was forced to resign. And then, things took an even darker turn. One of the whistleblowers tied to the scandal, Darren Dre Guerra, was gunned down shortly after speaking to investigators. Suddenly, it wasn't just about fraud, it was about life and death. Despite the massive scandal, no one was ever charged. Millions of taxpayer dollars, gone. No accountability. No real justice. LifeSport faded into the history books as yet another example of government failure, corruption, and impunity in Trinidad and Tobago. Number 7. Jack Warner FIFA Scandal, 2010s. A scandal that combined sports, politics, money, and betrayal on an international level. Let's unpack how a man from Trinidad and Tobago became one of the central figures in FIFA's biggest ever corruption case. Austin Jack Warner was once seen as a proud son of the soil. A schoolteacher turned football executive, Warner rose to become Vice President of FIFA, President of CONCACAF, founder of the Trinidad and Tobago Pro League, and even a government minister under the People's Partnership government. But with that power came allegations of corruption, stretching back for decades. People were whispering for years, but the truth didn't explode until the 2010s. In 2011, after a scandal surrounding bribes for FIFA presidential votes, Warner was suspended from all football activity. He resigned before a full investigation could be completed, and conveniently avoided FIFA's internal sanctions. But the real trouble came in May 2015. That's when the US Department of Justice dropped a 47-count indictment, charging over a dozen FIFA officials, and Jack Warner was front and center. The charges? Wire fraud, racketeering, money laundering, and accepting millions in bribes in exchange for World Cup hosting votes and marketing rights. The FBI even accused Warner of accepting a $10 million bribe to vote in favor of South Africa's 2010 World Cup bid. He denied it. But the money trail said otherwise. The US immediately requested Jack Warner's extradition from Trinidad and Tobago. Warner was arrested but later released on bail. Since then, he's been fighting extradition in the local courts, and as of today, he's still in T&T. Still has his freedom. Still hasn't faced a US courtroom. Meanwhile, court documents reveal he diverted millions of dollars meant for football development into personal accounts, bought real estate, and allegedly funded political campaigns. Even the money FIFA sent to help Trinidad and Tobago after the 2010 Haiti earthquake? Allegedly misused. The scandal rocked the football world and exposed just how deep the corruption ran inside FIFA. Jack Warner went from being one of the most powerful men in world football to a global symbol of greed and abuse of power. And yet, here in Trinidad, he still managed to hold rallies, post on Facebook, and even joke about his wanted status. Number 8. Imagine a company claiming to pump thousands of barrels of oil every month, getting paid millions, only for investigators to discover the oil was fake. Yes, fake oil. This is the unbelievable but very real story of the AV drilling scandal, also known as the fake oil scandal, one of the most bizarre and costly episodes in Trinidad and Tobago's energy history. It involves Petrotrin, AV Oil and Gas Limited, and millions of dollars paid for oil that may have never even existed. First, let's set the stage. Petrotrin, the state-owned oil company responsible for managing Trinidad and Tobago's petroleum production. AV Drilling AV Oil and Gas Limited, a private contractor owned by businessman Nazim Boksh, which was supplying oil to Petrotrin under a lease operator agreement. By all accounts, the company was producing oil. Reports were submitted. Petrotrin was paying big money based on those reports. But then, someone started asking questions. In 2017, an internal audit was launched after red flags were raised about discrepancies in oil volumes. The findings? AV Drilling had reportedly received over $80 million from Petrotrin over a period of time for oil that was never produced. In other words, the oil wasn't real. It was either inflated, fabricated, or completely made up on paper. The term fake oil was born, and it spread like wildfire. The audit report shocked the country. Petrotrin was accused of being asleep at the wheel. The scandal triggered public outrage, with people demanding accountability at the highest levels. As a result, Nazim Boksh and AV Drilling became the subject of both public scrutiny and legal investigation. Several Petrotrin officials were suspended or removed. And most dramatically, by 2018, the government announced the closure and restructuring of Petrotrin itself. The company was losing billions, and the fake oil scandal was the final nail in the coffin. The matter was handed over to the police and the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions. Civil lawsuits were filed. Criminal investigations were promised. But years later, no charges, no arrests, no trial. The public was left asking, how does someone sell fake oil to a government company and just walk away? Number 9. In Trinidad and Tobago, political scandals are nothing new. But in 2015, a new headline emerged, one that involved emails, a top government official, and allegations of witness tampering at the highest levels of justice. This is the story of Anand Ramlogan, once Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, and the investigation that followed him for nearly 6 years. Anand Ramlogan served as Attorney General under the People's Partnership government led by Kamla Persad Bisesa. And with that decision, a case that haunted Trinidad and Tobago's legal and political landscape for most of a decade came to an anticlimactic end. So what did the Ramlogan email investigation leave behind? A reputation damaged, regardless of the court's ruling. Years of political mudslinging. And questions still lingering about how power is used and abused behind closed doors in TNT. Ramlogan, despite the case being dropped, had already stepped back from politics and focused on private legal work, but his name remains one of the most controversial in the country's legal history. Number 10. See Textbook Scandal, 2022 to 2023. In a country where education is supposed to be the great equalizer, a textbook meant to prepare children for their biggest academic challenge was filled with errors, inappropriate content, and outright nonsense. This is the C Textbook Scandal, a story that left parents angry, teachers confused, and a nation asking, who approved this? It started with a book meant to help students, but ended in national outrage, political blame games, and serious questions about accountability in the Ministry of Education. First, for those who don't know, the SEA, or Secondary Entrance Assessment, is one of the most important exams in Trinidad and Tobago. It determines which secondary school a student will attend, and by extension, can shape the entire course of their future. So, when the Ministry of Education introduced a new SEA textbook in 2022, it was supposed to be a helpful, official resource for students and teachers. Instead, it became a national laughingstock. The book, titled My SEA Practice Test Workbook, was printed and distributed to thousands of students preparing for the 2023 exam. But once parents and teachers opened it, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some of the issues included basic grammar and spelling errors, mathematical problems with no logical solutions, inaccurate historical facts, poorly worded comprehension passages, and even strange or inappropriate examples that made zero educational sense. It was so bad, it became a meme on social media, with teachers and parents publicly questioning how such a book got approved and who was responsible. Naturally, the finger-pointing began. The Ministry of Education quickly distanced itself from the disaster. They claimed the book was not part of the official SEA syllabus and that it was produced by a third-party publisher, not the curriculum division. But here's the kicker, it still had the government logo on it and was distributed through official channels. The Minister of Education, Dr. Badoli, faced intense criticism. Some called for heads to roll, while others said the real problem was a lack of oversight and poor quality control in the education system as a whole. Since the scandal, the ministry promised a full review process. There were talks of improved vetting, greater transparency, and possibly legal consequences for whoever approved the flawed content. But as of now, no one has been fired. No charges laid. And the public is still waiting for real accountability. So what do you think? Was the SEA textbook scandal just a mistake? Is there a corruption scandal you think should have been on this list? Do you think Trinidad has too many cases of corruption for such a small island, or is the rate of corruption just like most other countries? Comment your thoughts, give the video a like, it helps a lot, and subscribe if you want to be notified of our next video.